Hello, this is Penrose, and I'm going to release some musings a little earlier than you'd expect, just because this is Zipper's show and I don't want to intrude on it too much, but something came up that I just had to comment on, so here we go. Yugioh. Oh, geez, yes, I know, a lot of you have already started running because, oh, damn it, not another Yugi-tuber. Okay, relax, people. Really, we won't talk about it as much because, honestly, you're right. YouTube is already saturated with way too many people talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! When it all really boils down to the same things. Really, I give the general Yu-Gi-Oh! Player a bit more credit than that. You don't need yet another bobblehead telling you that injectors are broken and whatnot. But that leads into it. When I'm talking about injectors and other things, see, Shonen Jump released an article about Yu-Gi-Oh! And they were basically talking about Japan's meta, what was doing well in Japan. That doesn't affect us, except Japan is generally what influences the ban list. More often than anything else, at least. I mean, they don't care what's going on in Europe, Africa, America, Canada, South America. Anyway, here's the let's first break down the Japanese meta. At the very tip top, raining from on high, are the injectors. And it's actually quite easy to see why, if you actually do pay attention to what the injectors do. They shoot shit. They keep shooting and shooting. They're like Rob Liefeld, if you've ever heard of that guy. They just whip out their guns and go, Whoa! Until it's dead. And in the meantime, more buddies are jumping around and they're doing the same thing. They're whipping out their guns and they're shooting and shooting and shooting, and basically the entire field of their opponents is gone, and there's like about 5 other of them. They're like, yeah, let's do this! And they charge in at you and basically hit you down to 0 before you really know what's happening. And the nice thing about it is that it doesn't matter what's in between you and them. Zenmains, Red Eyes Atem, Pulsar Red Eyes Atem, Logia, Dulca. Well, okay, Dulca they do take pause. They're like, oh. Which is actually why injectors are doing better over there than they are here. Mainly Dulca. Which leads into the next one. Kind of below the injectors is the little rabbit that could, that rescue rabbit. Oh, such an adorable little bunny. He has a little hat, and he goes off into the mountains, and he brings back 2 dinosaurs! And they pull you out of the snow! These dinosaurs! They pull you out of the snow, and then with their powers combined, they turn into a dragon! Who promptly protects you from anything that your opponent can throw. At least 1 time. Or 2 times if you're over here in America. Where, again, we have Dulca. Yay! But anyway, they are not quite as good as over there as they are here. Just because, again, injectors keep shooting stuff, and they don't have Dulca, so they can play around Logia much easier than they played around Dulca. So again, but still, solid deck. There's a good reason why it's still up there. Next is Hyretics. What? Hyretics? They don't do anything in America. Yeah, we basically have Chaos Dragons, and it's kind of a flip-flop. They both do similar yet different things. They both swarm. Hyretics is a bit more of an OTK than the Chaos Dragons, whereas Chaos Dragons is it kind of feigns control between the Lilas and the Raikos and the occasional Thunder King. It kind of pretends it can control at times, whereas Hyretics are just swarm the field and charge onto victory. Or not. And also, it's because injectors, again, are doing so well in Japan that basically, if you're going to run a dragon deck, you might as well go for the gold, or else injectors are just going to shoot you again. And shoot, and shoot, and shoot. But boils down to the same thing, really. Chaos Dragons don't do well against the injectors, just because injectors can keep shooting the dragons till they're dead. But, let's see, next deck after that is Flamvels. Well, not Flamvels. Sorry, that's old news. Generation last ago. We don't care about those. However, we do care about Lavals. Yes. They basically are Flamvels that have better support. Nix Rekindling, but Rekindling helps them as well. So, yeah. They're basically Flamvels with better support. Between Lady of the Lake, their own Foolish Burial, their own monster that acts as a more Foolish Burial. So, basically, the deck has much more consistent plays and therefore can capitalize much better on Rekindling than the Flamvels of old could. So, next is Dark World. Dark World are great. They do their thing. They can operate under Skill Drain, and Skill Drain is wonders in both our meta, so yay, Dark World. Then finally, kinda rounding it out at the bottom is Gadgets. Gadgets, with Ultimate Offering, they can be kind of broken. They can keep swarming and not losing any advantage, just paying 500 life points, which is very, very small. So, yeah, Gadgets are great, solid, and with the Gears, I heard that Machina Gadgets will be better with the Gears. Katakuri Gadgets will probably be better with the Gears, and in general, Gadgets have a lot of good stuff going there. Oh, and the little deck that could, Jaden's Pride and Joy, the Elemental Heroes. They haven't changed at all since Jaden was last on the anime. Well, maybe a little. But in general, they don't change a lot. They still do their Super Poly thing. They still do their Gemini Spark thing. Occasionally they go really heavy control, sometimes they don't. But in general, heroes are heroes. So, what does this breakdown of the meta have to do with the ban list? Well, it shows us what's going to get hit. And I'm sorry, Inzektor players, Inzektors are going to get hit. They're the top dogs. Now, a lot of people are crying, "Oh, ban Dragonfly, I hate her. She shoots things, and then she gets her buddy, and he shoots things, and then he gets someone in there who's going to shoot stuff as soon as possible, or else get a sword, and then they're going to shoot the sword, which is going to bring back one, and yeah. So Inzektors are going to get hit. However, I'm going to introduce my personal philosophy that if I have anything to contribute to Yu-Gi-Tubers in general, it's this philosophy, and that is you do not have to murder a deck to make it playable. I mean, unless it's like something like Frog FTK, where it's probably was based on a bad idea to begin with, like we shouldn't have had Mass Driver. They should have been some sort of limitation on Subsitode. But in general, if it's not just a completely unfair deck that wins within a turn really consistently, then where your opponent doesn't even get to put up a token of resistance, then in general, we shouldn't kill it. We should try to make it more limited. So, here's what I think I'll go down to each deck and I'll say what Konami probably will do and what I think they should do. And yes, those are always completely different things. What I think Konami should do, I think Centipede should be limited. Yeah, honestly, hitting Dragonfly and or Hornet will pretty much kill the deck. DD Crow pretty much will spell good game at that point. They could try to make Leviar, but at that point they're already burning resources trying to make the Sea Serpent to get their Hornet back, and all the Hornet's just gonna do is sit there like, once I go back to the grave, I think I'll be able to do something. And it's just too many hoops to go through just to get back to square one. So in general, hitting Hornet will kill it. Dragonfly, there's more reason to hit Dragonfly, but honestly, she's kind of the engine of the deck, and I don't like hitting engines if they're not immediately broken. She's what lets you kind of capitalize on shooting something and then going into something bigger, kind of a follow-up, since honestly, if Drago's proved anything, is that this was Legionnaire's weakness, is that once he shot the stuff, they're done. Well, shoot. Maybe you're just done because you're not building into anything off of that. So we kind of need, the deck kind of needs Dragonfly. However, Centipede is what makes it way too consistent. It lets them tutor their Excaliburs, their Dragonflies. It basically lets them get the pieces they need to fuel that OTK. So if we hit Centipede, they're not going to do the Dragonfly, Centipede, Dragonfly, Centipede, Dragonfly, Centipede stuff as much. And overall, they're not going to be able to tutor all the pieces they need to OTK. One Centipede just isn't enough to do that, usually. Unless you have some weird finagling with Monster Reborn and Call of the Haunted. But then, even then, by that point, they're committing a lot of cards to an OTK, which may or may not be a good idea. So again, hitting Centipede will probably make Insectors fair again. Especially over in the TCG, where, again, we have Dolka. Okay, Rescue Rabbit. Rescue Rabbit, I keep going back and forth on how broken or otherwise this little guy is. He makes exceeding very easy, but the thing is that the deck itself, it's kind of a derp/skill deck. I mean, you can't tell me it takes skill to open Rabbit and 3 back row, but yeah, when you open 4 normal monsters and a bottomless and your opponent has any viable hand, that can be tough to play out of. So I kind of have a twisted respect for the deck. So Rabbit, maybe semi-limited. I guess more the issue does go to Logia, which, again, I don't know how to feel about hitting Logia, because you're basically killing Evos. I mean, that's what the Evos do. They make lizards into dinosaurs and dinosaurs into dragons. And by dragons, I mean Logia. And occasionally Dolka. And yeah, Dolka will always be there, and Dolka is great, and honestly, Dolka shouldn't be touched since I think he's rather balanced with being a little smaller than the average 4 rank. And in general, a lot of decks don't seem to have a too tough a time beating over him. So, and again, any spell shoots Dolka. So again, Logia is the one that might get hit, and I would almost say semi, except doesn't really solve a problem, but limiting might be too harsh, so I honestly don't know how to answer the Rabbit conundrum, as it were. Especially since I feel like it wouldn't hurt them in the long run to hit Logia, since what they'll do is they'll probably replace Kabzols with that normal Verse, Evil Sworn, whatever monster, and just go into Apherion more often, that evil Bahamut dude that stops special summons some of the time, which is kind of another flavor of Dolka, sorta, not really, but anyway, that's a thought there. Not sure what to do with the Rabbit thing, since, again, I don't think it's broken. But it can be, so, in general, okay. When I say random tangent, when I say I don't want to kill a deck, basically I want to limit deck's options to just spam its ace thing, but I don't want it to necessarily completely stop functioning. So limiting Logia may make Rabbits have to be smarter, but then again, it doesn't really hurt that Rabbit remove Logia 3 back row plays, so maybe semiing Rabbit just to hurt its consistency a little more. Maybe limiting Rabbit will be fine just because they can replace the fallen Rabbits with Summoner Monks. Therefore, everything is all well. You're hurting its consistency a little bit. It's going to have to go for it. But the deck, especially over here in America, has a much easier time getting the fallen Rabbits back. It can POA them back into the deck. It can get them back with Leviar, so maybe hitting Rabbit to 1 will be the fair thing.